Hello, and if you just tuned in, you're listening to Taking It Black as I wave at my friend Jay Bryant there in the hallway of our studios here at Summit Media. I'm your host. I'm attorney Valerie Hicks Hale, and I'm going to be discussing with you on this blog post issues periodically that I come to you each Sunday at 12:05 approximately, discussing issues that impact the African American community. This today, I'm going to talk with you about a story, a recent issue in the in Birmingham in the news. Actually, this made national news. It's out of Birmingham, but it made national news, and it takes me back to my old stomping ground as a civil rights lawyer. I actually started my career as a civil rights lawyer in 1997. Yes, I know I don't look that old. Thank you very much. Uh, but I practice in the area of civil rights. I focused, concentrated a great deal of my practice in employment discrimination, but I did other types of civil rights cases as well, from consumer housing. I'm trying to think. Mostly consumer and housing discrimination, and mostly in outside of those employment discrimination. And I had some social justice issues in the community that I dealt with as well. But most of my career in employment discrimination dealt with or I was at the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which is where this story emerges. It goes back to 2017, where the EEOC filed this lawsuit. This is important because, I had really thought I was with the EEOC for quite some time, and moved from the practice of employment discrimination because courts really had become hostile to these cases. Many lawyers would file frivolous cases, which made the judges even more hostile to the cases. So it was just really tough, really difficult to make money prosecuting these cases. But this is the type of case. This is why I practiced, why I did what I did. And my commitment continues in the area of civil rights just because of cases like this. And I want to share this with you. I thought it was over. I really did. I was one of those who thought we had gotten beyond this. But we got a press release out of the EEOC here in Birmingham that says that Alabama beverage distributor is to pay $825,000 in a race discrimination lawsuit. The Birmingham Beverage Company Incorporated, known as Alabama Beverage, is a wholesale beverage company. They sell and distribute or wholesale distribution of drinks and specialty food items. They, again, have to pay $825,000 in this employment discrimination, and they're going to furnish some other racial discrimination relief because of the racial discrimination they have been accused of. The settlement of the lawsuit was, of course, announced by the EEOC. And just to let you know, EEOC is a federal agency. We have a division here in Alabama. Actually, Alabama is the regional office for all of Alabama and Mississippi. And they have offices in Birmingham, Mobile, and Jackson. Those are the main offices. But right today, unlike when I was with the EEOC, today you can go online and file a complaint of discrimination. It's almost paperless, but they cover, it was established under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and it includes race, they fight discrimination in employment based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, age, pregnancy, and genetic information. They filed this particular race discrimination case in 2017. That date is important. We need to keep that in mind. This is 2021, but this was filed in 2017. The company was charged in 2017. They filed this lawsuit. Now, they did a prior to 2017, EEOC just didn't come out and file a lawsuit. Under the law, they are required to do an investigation to determine if there is probability that discrimination took place. That a lawsuit of this kind, this type of investigation would take 2, 3, sometimes 4 years, but at least 2 years to do a thorough investigation of this magnitude. The company was charged with failing to consider African American employees. Excuse me. This is live TV, y'all. I can't stop. I wish I could. Please excuse me while I take some water. On the radio, if I'm not filming on Facebook, then I can stop it and nobody would ever know I have to do that. But going back, the company was charged with failing to consider African American employees for promotions to vacant route sales position. This is important too. Those route sales positions, you're not just delivering sodas. You're not just delivering drinks. You're not just making deliveries. You're actual salesman, and you get a portion of whatever is sold out of that store or out of that machine. The courthouse has several machines in there, and so you go, they fill those machines. Whatever is sold, they get a portion of that. These are very lucrative positions. Many of these positions the compensation can be up to 6 figures. And it's a great job because, you're in a vehicle. It's a vehicle they pay for. They supply everything. You're going from one place to another in an air-conditioned vehicle. You get to meet nice people that people want to see you coming because you're bringing things to drink and eat. And it's a great job. And so the problem is that the Birmingham Beverage Company, based on the information received by the EEOC, the investigation they were able to do and conduct, showed that, this great job was held for Caucasian people. Black people, they didn't feel could do the job. And the reason that EEOC found that is because only 2 African Americans held the position, notwithstanding being competent to do the job and interested in doing the job. Let me give you an example. One example was a man by the name of Ronnie Johnson. Ronnie Johnson had worked for the company. He's African American. He worked for the company for over 6 years. He applied for the position of route sales. He was working for the company at the time, and he was in a position of supervision. He supervised the delivery drivers. Delivery drivers, all they did was just deliver the beverages, deliver the food. They had no, they weren't compensated in terms of, what am I trying to say? They weren't given a bonus or they didn't get any piece of the pie when out of the sales that were made. So all they were delivery drivers. They got a set salary. Well, this guy, Ronnie Johnson, was working there. He supervised a Caucasian gentleman who was only a delivery driver, had only been working there 9 months. Mr. Johnson had been working there for 6 years. He had previous experience as a route salesperson, either with another company, maybe coming out of another state, whatever, but he had experience. He had demonstrated experience in that job. Despite all of this, the company denied him even an interview because he had given them reason to know that he was interested. He went to them and said, hey, when the next route sales position becomes open, I want it. Please consider me. They didn't. Not only did they not interview him, they didn't consider him. They couldn't have considered him because they didn't even offer him an interview, right? They gave the job to the man he was supervising, who was a delivery driver and had only been working for the company 6 months. But yet they said that promotion was not discriminatory. And here's the thing, I think, is why this settlement was so high. I think it could have been higher had they pushed it and gone to court. They may have even gotten more money because they had several years of this investigation. And even after the investigation, once the EEOC has conducted an investigation, if they find there's a high probability that discrimination took place, they will give the company an opportunity to settle the case. In this case, they obviously didn't settle because it made to the lawsuit stage. So they at any point they could have said, you know what, you're right, we did discriminate. What can we do to settle this? And I've worked for a company where, I came in after the person had done the discriminatory act. It wasn't race. It was another proscribe of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, but notwithstanding, it was discrimination. And I realized, I was like, okay, all we need to do is settle. What do we need to do to settle this? Because we can't claim that it didn't happen. It was blatant what that person did. We ended up firing that person and settling the lawsuit to make it right. This company was not willing to do that. They continued to play hardball and push the agency to file this lawsuit against them. So you've got this example. This is just one of 35 examples of blatant race discrimination, examples of race discrimination. You hire a person that has less, and that's what discrimination is. That's how you prove it. You have an African-American applicant. He's qualified or she is qualified for the position. Despite that, they are passed over for the position or not considered or not given the position because of their race. In this case, they were passed over because they were African-American and they were not considered. And here's the catch. It was given to a Caucasian person or someone outside of the protected class. In this case, a Caucasian individual. So who had less experience. On paper, if you didn't know who was Caucasian or who was white, who was Black or African-American, there would be no way you would choose the one that they chose to have this new route sales position. Despite Black employees frequently asking or expressing their interest in promotions, none were hired. And this is why that 2000 or that 2017 date is important. None were hired in the 4 years prior to the lawsuit being filed. No African Americans were hired in the 4 years prior to the lawsuit being filed. Not when they were investigating the case. Somebody brought the case. They had to bring the case before 2017 because you have 6 months within the occurrence to go to the EEOC and file your lawsuit saying that you believe you've been subjected to discrimination. Then they give the company an opportunity to respond. Then they do their investigation. If the response is not proof enough that discrimination didn't take place. I've had them as an employer. I've been both an employee and an employer, and I've had them as an employer. And when I send in my response, I don't get any further investigation because I've done the right thing, and they can read that in my response. So I generally don't get, I can't think of a time where I've had, where I was the employer, where I had EEOC actually go through and after getting my response where we did not discriminate and then say, well, no, we want to do a full investigation. So in this case, they filed their response. The EEOC said, no, this isn't good enough. We're going to investigate. So they investigated, found that they were, there was more probability than not that discrimination took place, gave them a chance to conciliate. They don't even call it settlement at that point. They call it conciliation, to give them a chance to conciliate. They did not. And now we have the lawsuit in 2017. So they had ample opportunity. So, even while doing this investigation, they wouldn't say, okay, you're right, you call us, we change, we're going to fall on our knees and pray for forgiveness and move forward. Didn't do that. 2017, prior to 2017, 4 years prior to, not one African American was hired or promoted to the position of a sales route driver. Notwithstanding, in that time, 11 Caucasians were given those positions. So they had at least 11 positions that African Americans could have been considered for and hired for and were not. At the time the lawsuit was filed, despite the fact that for 4 years prior to the lawsuit being filed, no one was hired. They did have 2 African Americans in the position of route sales drivers, but they were in positions of route sales drivers in demographics of mostly an African American demographic, where the sales were lower, where the opportunities to make a commission, a high commission, were lower, where probably Caucasians wouldn't accept. So they gave it to African Americans and said, hey, if you want one, here it is. The suit alleged that the Birmingham Beverage Company violated the 1964 Civil Rights Act on multiple occasions against 35 employees, former employees, current employees, and potential employees, people who were wanted to be considered for hiring. The case illustrates, this is what the EEOC had to say in its statement. The case illustrates the destructive and demoralizing impact race discrimination can have on employees when they are denied employment opportunities based on their race. It's demoralizing because you realize that the reason that you were not selected for the position was simply because of the color of your skin. Nothing else, not the content of your character, not the content of your work, not the quality of your work, but just because of the color of their skin. It's an immutable characteristic. Nothing I can do about. I've got this skin color. It's not going anywhere. I can't change it. It can get darker, but it's not going to get lighter. And because I was born this way, you who have benefits, who have a benefit of the federal government in all kinds of ways, tax advantages, using the roads of our country, our interstate highways to conduct your business, all of this, but you're going to discriminate against me and my taxes go to help you in your business. That's what the 1964 Civil Rights Act really was based on. So it is demoralizing and it's destructive because it continues to subject African American communities to a very harsh reality when it comes to economic achievement. For many years, it goes on to say, for many years, African American workers at the Birmingham Beverage Company demonstrated their fitness for the position and their desire for promotion, but they were denied employment opportunities because of the color of their skin. They were represented, the company was represented by a firm I'm very familiar with and have had opportunity to litigate against, Lear Middlebrooks, Vreeland, and Thompson. They represent the Birmingham Beverage Company, and this is what they had to say. And I that's why I told you to remember 2017, because they say they stand behind their hiring and promotion decisions to hire and promote the best qualified applicants, right? They also claim that many African American route salesmen have been hired, listen, over the last 5 years. In other words, look, the last 5 years we've hired many. Well, what were the last 5 years? We got 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. So since you filed the lawsuit, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, right? Since you filed the lawsuit, we started hiring. Since you called us dead to rights and you were going to take us to court, to federal court, and prove it in front of a jury, we settled. And we hired all these people, all these African Americans, right? What does that mean? I mean, it's as though they have done the right thing. They were pushed into doing the right thing. This case is important because I've worked with so many companies. I remember a case with Coca-Cola, Celotex, where you have Black men who are trying to feed their families. And these are strong Black men who will, who are trying to do the right thing. They have children and wives, and they want to, they have hopes and dreams for their family, no different than anyone else. And so they're trying not to rock the boat because they don't want to get fired. They know they have a good, decent job, even though they're not being being considered for promotions that Caucasians are provided just because of the color of their skin. So what happens is they're silent. They don't say anything. They're quiet. They don't want to lose the opportunity that they do have to hold a job. And, I don't care that people will say, well, just be happy that you got a job. No, they under the law are required to give you an equal opportunity based on the fitness and your readiness to and preparation to do the job, and to not pass over you for someone who is far less qualified than you based on the color of their skin. And so it is important that people have courage enough to do what these men finally and these women were finally able to do. And I've seen it over and over again. Finally, someone says, I've had enough. That's it. I remember working with the troopers in Mississippi. Same thing there. Finally, you get a group of them that says enough is enough. We're going to the mat. We're taking it to the mat. And, some companies will start making changes while the case is being investigated, while you're looking at trying to sue them. This case didn't. This case didn't. And I remember in the case in Mississippi with the troopers, we never did file the lawsuit. That was the Department of Justice held it so long. The agency really had started making changes. The agency made changes before we actually filed the law. We filed the complaint. They were doing an investigation. They had found discrimination. There was a high probability of discrimination. And so it went from the EEOC in Mississippi to the Justice Department investigating it. And so they started making changes. That's not what happened here. They held their feet to the fire and said, no, we're standing strong. We're not going to do anything. And eventually to the tune of having to pay to the tune of $825,000. That rounds up to almost $25,000 per litigant on average. So why am I bringing this to you? Don't be one of those employees who's afraid to complain about discrimination. If you sincerely believe, you have a sincere belief that you've been subjected to discrimination, you don't have to fear filing a lawsuit. You can go online to EEOC.gov and file a complaint there. And be prepared to tell the truth. This isn't about, trying to make a payday. This is about making sure that companies own up to the check, as Dr. King says, that this country was supposed to have written to African Americans that has been bouncing for over 400 years. We now need to make sure that these companies are doing the right thing. And if they're not, then you file a lawsuit. I'm telling you, if you file a complaint of discrimination. However, if there is no probability of discrimination, they cannot find one, then they're probably just going to dismiss your case. They tell you, you can file a lawsuit if you want to, but we're going to dismiss your case because we don't say anything here. So be sure that you keep your ducks in a row. You take good notes. You take good, you keep good records, and you tell the truth. And I commend the men and women of the Alabama Beverage and Birmingham Beverage Company Incorporated, the African American men and women who said enough is enough. We're going to demand our rights. And they're going to pay us for having subjected us to this discrimination. And they're going to do right by us. And that's what's happening here. I just wanted to encourage you in that regard. If you are one of those individuals at a company that's, maybe subjected you to discrimination, a lot of times companies may or may not know You know, if just by raising the issue, sometimes that makes a difference and can make all the difference in the world in terms of changing it, to have the companies do the right thing. You've been listening to Taking It Black. You've been watching Taking It Black here on the website of 987 KISS FM. We'll be back here next week, same time, same place. I'm Valerie Hicks Hale. We're out.